Well, I don't know. We're live. Ladies and gentlemen of both Facebook as well as live to YouTube, welcome. And today's discussion is exactly that. You're right. Professionalism. Well, not professionalism. Being a professional versus an amateur. Being full-time versus part-time. Yeah. And with me, I have got quite a few guys. There they go. Yeah. So we've got Alex from Valhalla Ironworks Center Top, Michelle Zwan from Michelle Zwan Custom Knives. Right top. You need to do that again, buddy.
Benga and Glovo Customs.
There we go. Yeah, I'm not going to even try that, man. I'm going to just screw it up completely. And you know what rule 1 is? Don't screw up. And then we've got Grant Stain from Grant Stain Forge. Left bottom, and then we've got Rudy van Heerden sitting extremely still in the right-hand side. Dude, you look like deer in headlights. All right, can everyone hear me? Yeah?
Yes.
Clearly.
Okay, so let's start off with let's call it the Google search definition of an amateur. Yeah? An amateur is a person who engages in a pursuit, especially a sport, or an unpaid rather than a professional basis. Okay.
I'd agree with that.
Second definition would be a person that is incompetent or inept at a particular activity.
Which implies a form of judgment. Is that self-defined as incompetent or defined by a governing body?
Hold on. That is professional. Yeah. So if we go into the definition of professional, it would be relating to or belonging to a profession. Okay, then I went and I said, well, that's interesting. Second definition would be engage in a specific activity as one's paid occupation. Holy crap. Let me try that again. So engage in a specific activity as one's main paid occupation rather than as an amateur. All right. Then I went and said, okay, well, what professionalism. And then at some point I did a search at what is a professional career. All right. And it came up with quite an interesting little thing and saying, and if I can find the bloody thing, it'll be helpful. Saying what is seen as a profession. And it came back and says there are 5 professions in general classified as only 5 professions. They refer to as the professions, which is the 5 traditional professions are architecture, clergy, engineering, law, and medicine, where law and medicine are traditionally considered the most elite of them. All right. And then I went, but architecture, and my wife mentioned, but because they have a bar, like for law, there's a bar. For architecture, there's something similar, which is a professional organization where its members can legally be held responsible for what they get up to. Yeah. So that makes sense. So as a knife maker, if I then go and I join or is accepted to, for instance, the South African Knife Makers Guild, does that now qualify as a profession or me as a professional? Because I could do it part-time or full-time, yeah? Which leads me into the whole part-time, full-time thing. Mm-hmm. So, part-time. Definition of part-time is, anyone wants to take a guess?
Not working a minimum of 32 hours a week.
Ooh, I like that.
That's short weeks.
Yeah. 32 hours a week is pretty relaxed schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, a standard working week is 40 hours, right? From 8 to 5.
I mean. Yeah.
5 days a week gives you 40 hours. All right. So the main definition here is part-time is seen as when you work only a part of the usual working week. Well, working day or a week. All right. So in general, part-time work is described as any time between 1 and 34 hours worth of work per week. You're right. Then I went a bit further and got down the freaking rabbit hole and got into medical professions because with the whole thing. And in Affordable Care Act in the US, 32-hour workload is considered full-time, as 30 hours of caretaking is considered a full-time profession. Okay, so there's quite a few weird and wonderful whatever views. Okay, and we're now just going to quickly run and see if anyone has given us a comment so far. Nick, how's it going, boys? No one. People are just saying hello, hello, hello.
I've got a word for you, Niels.
Hello.
Okay, so shoot.
The word is dilettante. Somebody dabbling. I've got it here. An amateur, somebody who dabbles in a field out of casual interest rather than a profession or a serious interest. I think a lot of
and that is a debutante.
Dilettante.
Dilettante.
Yes,
Crap, I'm learning big words here.
The derivative of debutante.
Okay, so let's get this party started, right? So let's get Grant out of the way there. All right, gentlemen, part-time, full-time. You guys as knife makers, Alec, we're going to start with you, then Rudy. As you see the screen there, just right to the guy right of you. Alex, part-time or full-time?
Full-time, exceptionally so.
Amateur, professional?
I would consider myself a professional.
Okay. Michelle?
Professional and full-time.
Excellent. Grant?
Newly full-time and amateur.
That's going to come back and bite you in the ass. Rudy? Full-time, part-time, amateur, professional?
Full-time and professional. Although
full-time and professional.
Yeah.
So like Calvin
singled out, Grant.
Calvin is saying, it's not work or a job if you enjoy what you're doing. I want to say bullshit. Yeah, because work is work, man.
When you're at the 90th hour of your week.
Yeah, look, and for me, a hobby, and this ties into this whole part-time, full-time thing. A hobby is something that costs you money. That's the definition in my house. Okay? A hobby costs you money. And as soon as you move from hobby maker to a selling something, even if you're a hobby maker, you still be a hobbyist. Yeah. So the part-time, full-time thing, let's just go back to the amateur. Calvin, yeah, man, I do agree. For this whole argument, I'm just stirring the pot, man. So a hobbyist qualify as an amateur. Let's look at the definition of an amateur again. Yeah, an amateur is someone that does it on an unpaid rather than a professional basis, where we then have to basically agree that a professional would receive money for whatever product or service he provides. Yes, no?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think
that was easy. No one is arguing.
I would actually pull it down to maybe a certain percentage of the income that they produce for themselves. And once you get past that, because somebody could make, they could work a full-time job where they're doing 45 hours a week there, but then they come home, they spend a couple of hours of the evening making soap and selling it online, but only actually pull in maybe $50 a week doing it. But they just do it because it's a passion, and they, making a few bucks for it covers their costs. I wouldn't call them a professional soap maker.
No, but they're a professional side hustler.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. Well, he might be, I don't know. If you get, okay, no, I'm trying to spin that, but no, I have to agree. I have to agree. Yeah. So what are the guys are saying?
Prof amateur.
I like that.
You know what, Niels? I would say if you rely on the income you make from it to pay even part of your monthly expenses,
that's a good definition.
I think you can call yourself a professional.
No, professional says that you earn your money. That is your sole income.
So
Yeah, sole income.
So engage in a specific activity as one's main paid occupation rather than as an amateur is seen as a professional.
yeah.
Many people hold multiple jobs, though.
That's it. So my wife reckons, what's the difference between, well, I asked her, what is her take on this whole professional versus amateur? And she reckons, well, at crafts, which is something that we all do, according to her and what she teaches her students is 10,000 hours.
Mm. That's the
So you
definition
can
of mastery, isn't it?
You can be a part-time professional. Yeah, because people that let's take it into the consulting realm. You don't become a consultant if you're an amateur. Yeah,
That's true.
generally, guys that consult are seen as the go-to authority on the specific subject.
Haven't
And
been a
they tend to be
consultant in the past. You deal with a lot of amateurs.
Yes, you do. But knife making is pretty much the same. Yeah. So whether you get full-time makers that are still amateurs. Agreed?
Yeah.
I have to agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so everyone blatantly agrees that you can be full-time and still be an amateur. A beginner full-timer. Yeah, buddy. Nick is in a bit of a unique situation.
Yeah.
Where I know Nick is a chef, yeah, and with the current lockdown, he started making knives a couple of months ago. Even years, it doesn't matter. But he does it as a hobby, part-time, and he's now in a situation where he's stuck at home, can't earn money from his profession, and he's spent a lot of time on his hobby, and is now starting to earn an income from that. Yeah, which is cool. Which is really cool, but still, let's go back to the professional thing. Professional knife maker.
The skill
Does
level
that-
has to play.
Skill level comes into play.
No, still, I mean, I'm a full-time maker, and I do earn money
Yeah.
out of it, and it is my only source of income. But I don't consider my skill level high enough to say that I'm a professional, because I think the word professionals also implies some level of expertise.
Have you ever had a manager before?
I laugh,
That is a valid point, man. That is a valid point. Yeah. So with lockdown full time, it's your full income. Yeah, man. So what else? Let's quickly go.
This has the
we've
potential to
done
become a very controversial topic.
If
I've
you
had
are-
some spats with people before over this.
if you're on a
Calvin,
new
I hear what
selling-
you're saying. Yeah, so look at Calvin's statement. I hear what he's saying, but I don't really agree. The quality of your work determines whether you're amateur or professional. I don't know. I've seen full-time knife makers that I hate to say it, but they're amateur, and their stuff sells because they are professional or proficient at freaking marketing. Yeah.
You talking about me, Niels?
No, but I'm kind of making Calvin's point for him. Okay, never mind, dude. You win. I have to agree with that. Sean is saying what? So if you're a hobbyist and you're very good at it, you're good to be a professional. And is he seen as an amateur because he's new to something and it's a hobby? You can be a professional and still have it as a hobby. That's my mind. That's where I'm kind of going. Yeah. Amateur versus professional. I honestly believe it's the amount of time that you've spent doing this. Yes, and I want to go back to the whole. If you think of an apprentice. Yeah. Anyone here have apprentices?
No.
I've been an apprentice.
No.
Not an apprentice.
So a student. Are you well? I mean, I see myself as a full-time student of anything and everything. And my dad had a philosophy that says, look, he can do anything, and I believe this full-heartedly. I can do absolutely anything. I've tried a lot of things that I'm really good at, others that I really suck at. There's a lot of things I still haven't tried, but I can do anything. And it's a mindset. But now getting back to this whole amateur versus professional thing, man. And I don't think it's a subject that we're actually gonna find a full definition on. So Alex, let's hear on you.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the whole amateur/professional thing, man?
Well, it's a potentially very controversial topic because there's different camps, and those camps are always going to exist in any field. The same thing happens in knife making. It happens in policing. It happens in lawyering. It happens in soap making. It happens in masonry. And there's always, I like to call them gatekeepers. There's always people that sort of self-appointed rulers of that field, and they like to dictate the parameters by which other people are measured as being professional or not within that field. And they set their own standards and things. They have no authority to do so, but usually they are people who are actually quite good at the field, but tends to, they tend to get closed-minded and love to actually enforce their will on new people joining into the group. Everyone's probably run into them, anybody that's tried something new before. But then you get the people who are, they think money is king. And if I'm earning money off this, then that's all I need to do. And really both ends of that's sort of both opposite ends of a spectrum, and both ends are bad. And I think somewhere in the middle is where people should try and aim to be. But really it comes down to, like I said before, I'd say if you're earning a certain percentage of your income, probably a large percentage, a majority percentage of your income is coming from something that you do, there's a certain testament to that if you're making that sort of money off what you're doing, then people are buying it. And if people are buying it, it must be worthy of buying. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do it for very long because you wouldn't get repeat customers. You would have a bad reputation in the field. So you must be able to produce something of quality in order to be able to make a living off what you're doing. And really, there's a sort of a practical aspect to it, regardless of what governing body is monitoring what you're doing and the quality of your work. If you're able to sustain yourself off of it, then you must be doing something right.
Okay, but I hear what you're saying. But if you're sustaining yourself, are you seen as a professional? Or is it that just full-time?
Well, I would say that you would be labeled as a professional if you are doing it as your profession, as your main source of income.
Okay, that's a nice definition. Rudy, what do you think, buddy?
Man, Niels, I think you're professional if you sell your knives. They're selling. But okay. I think there's also professional and proficient. Those are two different things, because like you say, you can be good at marketing and you can sell a lot of knives, but are you proficient? Are you a professional at making knives, or are you a professional at selling knives? Those are different things.
Yeah, but if you want to sustain yourself, sorry, let me just get back to this point. If you want to sustain yourself, in other words, make this your full-time income, then surely you get to a point where you make a knife to a let's call it an acceptable quality without stepping on any toes, where people are now inquiring about your product, and then you start manufacturing them. Yeah? Okay, so once you've got them, anyone can make a knife. And I've said this numerous times. Anyone can make a knife. The quality of the finish, the fit will differ. All right. But not everyone can sell a knife. And I see this at knife shows all over the world, where the guys get up and they decide to take this up as a hobby or an interest or whatever. You get to a point where you become really good at what you do, right? And people are starting to inquire about your stuff. And then people ask you, are you going to be at this knife show? And you start thinking, hey, maybe I should go to this knife show. All right.
Yes.
But the main reason they started taking up this hobby was because they didn't get along with other people. All right. And it's also those guys that you're thinking on social media, fuck, this guy should really not be on social media. But then these are, I'm now using extreme examples. All right. You get to a knife show and there's this guy, everybody's standing around.
And garnish nails.
Uh-oh.
You get this one dude that's just sitting there behind his table. It looks like he's going to be spitting in your face if you're asking a question. Yeah. Now you can be the world's most professional, whatever knife maker. Your fit and finish can be engineering fucking standards. No one is going to buy any of your knives. You can be full time.
Yes, I agree.
But is that professional?
You can also make that you have laser cut and all you do is sharpen it and be good at selling it, and now you call yourself a professional.
Yes.
I think Niels, it's important to show that there's a difference between being a professional and being
professional. Yeah.
Yeah.
You picked up on that.
Yep.
Right. So Grant is sitting there very, very quiet. Oh, crap. I shouldn't have done that. Sorry, dude. I pressed the wrong button.
Yeah, yes, I also have feelings.
Okay, so Grant, I know for a fact that you ran your own company, an extremely successful company, and you've just got out of that and decided to go full-time into knife making.
Yes, that's correct. I'm in a company for...
So let's talk about experience for you as a knife maker. Where are you standing at this point?
I think that's
How many
maybe
years
why
have you done this?
I'm still like an amateur, because the work that I used to do, I did for 25 years odd. And I was a extreme professional with that. There was not many people in my field that could tell me much about it.
Exactly.
So that level of knowledge to what I know about knives, then compared to that, I know very little about knives. But if I look at my product, I'm happy with it. I think it's a sellable thing. And I do get them sold every now and then.
Excellent.
But yeah, the marketing side is something that I haven't paid any attention to yet. I sort of, you mentioned it the other day, posted on Facebook, and that's that. I need to definitely put some work into it.
Okay, we'll get into marketing and marketing yourself and what I believe you should be marketing, and it's everything except your knives. By the way, for the guys that know me, know my little spiel, knife makers buy into, or people buy into a person, a knife maker, and then want to own a piece of that person. That is much better selling the story of who you are than selling a knife. Because a knife you won't sell, you're going to end up selling the knife that you just made. Yeah, you're not selling the story. Okay, but I'm digressing. So full-time maker. Yeah, how long have you been full-time now?
Geez, about 5 weeks, 6 weeks.
Brilliant. Well done, buddy.
Yeah,
so if you're so Nick is asking a question here. If you're a professional, does hours really come into the equation? So in other words, if you just based on what you've said, all right, your previous profession, your previous job, you were seen as a professional just because of the experience that you brought to the table. Now,
so I must say, the part of that career, when you get to a certain level, you don't put tons of hours in. You consult and you discuss things on a high level, and just your opinion counts for value.
But that is based on your past experience.
Yes, it is the
Okay, but like I said, that is the whole consulting, IT, blah, 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 blah. That's that realm. Now, in knife making, do you think that if you had, I don't know, 500 hours worth of knife making experience?
It's such a tricky topic, because you can spend 500
I know, that's what makes it cool, right?
If you can spend 1,000 hours or 500 hours, but not productively, or not teaching yourself enough, and then it doesn't have much value either. If you, I
That's
think
true.
if you are a professional knife maker, you're going to end up spending 16 hours a day working on knives because that's just what it demands in its nature. It's like innate to the trade.
All right, so Richard's saying that he's been doing this for less than a year and he sold 2 knives last week. Well done, buddy. But I class myself as an amateur. It's a long way before he even thinks of himself as a good amateur, which is another take on it, right? So amateur versus professional. We've now said amateur, you do this part-time, yeah, or not? What is the consensus? Do you have to be professional if you are part-time, or can you be professional when you're part-time? Yes, you can.
Yeah.
I'd say yes.
Okay, so if I then change the definition of professional to say, look, that you only earn your income as per the Webster definition of professional, can I now be part-time and still be professional?
I think if you rely on the income to live, then, well, I suppose you can make so much that you don't rely on the income.
That's what I was looking for.
Yep.
And that's where I'm trying to go to, yeah? So if I can only make a knife for a week, a month, and earn enough bucks from that, money from that, to still be seen as professional as a full-time maker, but I'm only actually doing this part-time. Yeah, I want to call myself a retired professional knife maker. That's what I want to do.
Here's an interesting concept that you may not have considered. Where would intent play a role in this? Like you actually brought it up, Niels, before, that a hobby is something you spend money on, whereas a career, a profession is something that you are making money from. What about your intent behind it? Because, I mean, the label of professional could either be given to you or it's something that you give yourself. I mean, which are we talking here? Because if it's something you give yourself, then the intent behind what you're doing might actually play into it.
Look, there's no institution that will give you a certification as a professional in the crafting. No, I don't know. ABS, Mastersmith.
Well, there's certain fields that
you are part-time and then seen as a professional. Yeah, because you belong to an official organization that governs the quality of what you're doing. Yeah,
and holds you
accountable. You have got an official rating. Yeah,
that's if you choose to follow the ABS route.
Well, if you're not, this is my personal opinion, I'm going to call you stupid. I was asked this question earlier. Yeah, so we did the 48-hour dagger build. All right, it took me less time to sell that dagger, and I made real money out of it. And then I was asked the question, would I have gotten that amount of money if I was not the only journeyman, well, one of 2 journeyman smiths on the African continent? And I honestly had a long and hard thought about it. And I honestly believe I would not even have gotten half that amount of money. Especially if I now look at the guys that sold their daggers. The quality was absolutely exceptional, and he didn't get a fifth of the amount of money that I did. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yes, a professional qualification. I mean, are you going to go? You've got a tummy ache, and you realize it's not just a tummy ache. There might be something substantially wrong. You're going to go to a doctor, a certified professional.
Not
you're
somebody who's going to give you, raw goat's milk
and then get advice from the chick sitting behind the till.
A lot of people do. It's very scary.
Yeah. Right. So from that point of view, there was Nick just asked a question. Sorry, I'm just going to quickly answer this. My comment on being vegan knife making, being stock removal. Brother, you need to put that into context, right? Go and follow me and then understand where that comment came from. I spent a period of 6 weeks just doing stock removal on an order of 200 and something knives. And I made that comment to myself. So I feel like a vegan and I'm missing the meat. And that was referring to smithing. And then I said, I feel like a vegan knife maker. Yeah, and people started getting all offended. Now, if I offended anyone in saying that, then if you're a stock remover and you get easily offended, you're a fucking vegan knife maker. It's easy as that. Now, unsubscribe and leave. It's easy as that. Yeah. This is my channel. It's my personal profile, and I can get and say whatever I want. Yeah. It's pretty much, it's a free world. Yeah. And if you're watching this out of a not free country, dude, get your ass out of there. It's easy as that. Yeah. Well, okay. I digress again. So we had Master Smith coming in and saying, no, it's not vegan knife making. It's knife making light. Which is apparently politically more correct, which is brilliant. But it was said in jest and not to offend anyone. But if you are offended by me saying that, or calling myself when I do stock removal a vegan knife maker, then it would be better for you to just take a bow, move on. Yeah. So let's get on. We've got Mitch saying, "How's it going, man?" From South Carolina, buddy. And I'm glad your wife is out of ICU, buddy. Then we've got Johnny that mentioned something semi-professional, which is something that I find extremely enticing. Your thoughts on being a semi-professional knife maker? What would that entail?
I'd probably say it goes back to that intent. You are on the journey. The purpose of the being on the journey is to get to the point where you're earning your career and primary income from that trade, but you're not quite there yet.
Okay, but I know guys that have been trying that for years and years and years.
Well, they need to try harder.
Still not, but this is not rugby, so try doesn't come into it. It's just do it. Yeah, Mike has got the idea there. If you're going to bite the bullet and be a full-time maker, then you got to bite the bullet and be a full-time maker. But you can't bite that bullet being stupid. You need to put in the lead work. You're going to have to realize that your admin, your marketing, your promotion is going to take up 2/3 of your freaking time.
Because this is the thing, a lot of people
never been the issue as a full-time or a professional guy. Making the knife has never been the issue. You got to a point where you're so proficient, and this is my personal view. You got to a point where you're so proficient that you can knock these things out at an extremely high standard, and the consistency is what puts the professionalism in the profession. Yeah, consistency, the way that you deal with clients, blah. So it is an extremely large topic, and I'm trying to just stir the pot a bit, if you didn't get this. Making guys think about this is a bit more about it. But I lost my point. Damn it.
Well, your point was
guys
really
realized that they just suck at admin. They suck at selling. And that's why they can't make it as professional makers. It's got nothing to do with the quality of their work. They just can't earn enough income out of this because their time management suck. They just don't know. I don't know how to price their work. They can't sell the product that they've been making for the past 30 years because look, it fell out of fashion. I don't know. There are 5 million different reasons why a guy cannot sustain himself or get into this on a professional level. Yeah.
A lot of people who actually want to turn something that they're passionate about into a profession or a career, they seem to think that they just need to be good at that thing. But that you, like you said, you need to be able to get out there and you need to learn marketing. You need to learn some graphic design, learn photography skills so that you can help market yourself. You need to study some psychology to understand how people think. Just get out there and start doing even things like theatre sports to help get your self-confidence up and your ability to engage with people when you're actually face-to-face with them. If you're a particularly shy person, perhaps start getting your communication skills working. Yeah, anything that helps you market yourself and sell yourself, especially when you're at a night
sports. I just saw this load of guys on stage running around and one guy with the javelin, the other guy with the blah, blah, and they pretending to be good at sports.
Do you not have theatre sports in South Africa?
I'm pretty sure it's not called theatre sporit's. I don't know. It's the first time I've ever heard of it before. But then also, I don't get out much, so it doesn't say much. If it's not on YouTube, I don't know about it.
Maybe or not.
Improv acting exercises.
Oh yeah. That's knife making. All right, so Calvin is saying he's made knives from around 19. 89, he's made them on a somewhat regular basis, but he considers himself to be a hobbyist. Purely
Yes,
because he's not earning his living from it. Now, I have seen Calvin's work. All right. And I can tell you his work is on a professional level. Definitely. So, thoughts on that? He sees himself as an amateur or a hobbyist. Yeah, so, I mean, hobbyist, I didn't even bring into this. So maybe that is why guys are calling themselves, I don't know, full-time hobbyists. Should that be a thing?
Well, I suppose, are you using amateur to define their capacity for work, or are you using amateur to define their skill level? Because amateur and hobbyist could be used to describe the same thing.
Yeah, but when do you see yourself? If we are describing amateur or using it in a way of to define the amount of skill that you have,
that's different.
Right, then amateur and professional means something completely different. If it relates to the amount of time that you have done this. So my wife, that was what started the whole thing. She called an amateur person that just started out a hobbyist, but as a hobbyist, because a lot of her students are hobbyists, yeah, and they'll very few of them, maybe 0.5% of her students will actually take this up as a full-time career or take it further to enable them to get to a point where they would then be able to make it as a full-time career. Yeah, she being a jeweler. Yeah. Okay. So, long story short, if you hobbyist doing this for I don't know how many hours would then take you from being a amateur to a semi-professional to a professional. I know, to build muscle, generally accepted that 10,000 hours doing that specific task will teach your muscles to do exactly that. Yeah, and I agree. If you want to become proficient, really, really proficient at grinding, you need to spend the time behind the machine. And that time is not time spent making knives, but time spent learning how to grind. And there's a difference. And this is why I'm always saying you can't learn how to grind while making a knife. You're learning to make a knife. You need to learn how to grind. So that once you forge the blade and you haven't fucked up there, you get to the grinder and then you screw it up. Yeah, you need to learn how to grind. And learning how to grind does not mean getting it 1 out of 10 times you get the plungers correct. Yeah, that's just a blind squirrel getting a nut every now and then. You need to be proficient at what you're doing. And proficient does not necessarily mean professional. Are you guys now thoroughly confused?
Slightly.
Then I'm kind of succeeding in what I want to do here. Yeah.
I think what you're trying to say is that if the more competent you are and streamlined and accurate you are, the less work you have to do at actually the task and the more time you've got to be able to turn it into a career. Okay. You don't think as much about the work.
Okay. All right, I agree. Sorry, I'm looking at Keegan Bester's comment here. Knife makers don't lose their points. They just make shorter knives. Keegan, my personal view, I don't know where that came from, but knife maker who did that, he didn't follow rule 1. Yeah. So that's something you kind of bullshit yourself into the positive mindset of saying, look, even if whatever I'm trying to make is not turning out exactly as I wanted, it's still good. No, it's not. If you wanted to build a single garage and then so completely screwed up and ended up with a triple garage, yeah, it's not a good thing. If you wanted to build a garage and then you ended up with a fucking toilet, you missed the point. Yeah? That's why design of a knife starts with just that, the design of a knife. If you're going to go to the anvil and just let the thing happen, airy-fairy, whatever unicorn fart world, it's not reality, buddy. You need to learn the skill, and that is to forge to a specific design. Yeah? And you ain't gonna learn squat if you just hammer steel. And then you see this on these startup YouTube channels where the guys are just, I mean, he's been forging for fucking 5 weeks. He's gonna start a YouTube channel. That knife turns out like this, just for the sheer fact that he doesn't know how to straighten the spine. He says that, but the knife wanted to be that. Pokemon evolve, right? And knives don't. It is a craft, and you need to work your ass off to refine your skill at that craft level. So for me, that is the difference between an amateur and a professional. It's the mindset. It's not the amount of time that you spent behind the anvil, or the amount of time you've spent running a file, or the amount of time that you've spent behind the grinder. That makes you a hell of a lot more proficient at what you're doing, and you're going to spend less time making it. Yeah? Your fit and finish is going to be a hell of a lot quicker, not neater, with the amount of time that you've spent dedicated with a professional attitude towards a specific task. Whether you actually earn an income from it or not, it's irrespective. Now that I've confused you even more, Rudy, let's get you front and center here.
Yeah.
All right. Dog bone knives are saying, are you considered a professional knife maker when another maker wants to own your knife? What do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't say so.
I know we're putting Rudy on the spot now.
Yeah, I wouldn't say so. I've got other knife makers that have swapped me. So I've done trade-offs, where they give me a knife, so I give them a knife. So in that case, yeah, am I professional? But
now let's put it. Look, if I said, Rudy, I like that style of knife of yours, please make me one. You've got a budget of so much.
Yeah.
Would you then be seen as a professional knife maker?
Yeah, well, obviously you have the respect of your peers then, or a peer anyway.
Respect means nothing, man.
Hey?
I said respect means nothing. Oh, will you be considered a professional knife maker if another knife maker wants to own one of your knives?
No.
Thank you very much. That was a leading question, by the way. Yeah, it is like you said. You can. I respect you as a person. I like what you're doing. I've bought into the way that you do things, and I actually just want to own a piece of what you've made. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. Just because I've ordered a knife from someone doesn't make him a professional maker. It is me wanting to really own a piece of what this guy is doing. And I try to, as far as possible, order knives from guys that I really respect, irrespective of the skill level that they have. Plus bonus point here is if you get in early, the prices are still cheap. Yeah. And when that guy eventually builds a name, hell yes, I can say, hey, you know what? I owned one of these early pieces, and look at that. It sucked. But he made that for me.
Now I know your plan, Niels.
Exactly, dude. And my wife get back to you. She told me that you've got the order, by the way, on that mushroom knife. Make it,
cool.
buddy. Let me know. Yeah. So
I'm
nothing more than $200 US.
I'm happy to just do a trade for your brooches that you were going to send me.
No, man. Damn it. Grant. Sorry, man. Yes. I'm kind of throwing all over the place here. So John Bailey is saying...
Yeah, that's true.
Okay,
that's
so some guys are trying to sell because their buddy told them that their blades look look good, but they look like a prison shank. Yeah, it's not something everyone can do and be successful. Now, that was something I was going to lead onto. If you substitute the word professional with successful, how many guys, and Rudy kind of fell out, how many guys would still be around?
That would be defined by your definition of successful. Is it other people's considering you successful, or what you yourself consider successful?
Look, I've never met a successful businessman that calls himself a successful businessman.
That's a good point.
All right. And a successful maker calling himself a successful maker, It's like you said, what's the standard? How are you measuring your success? So that will be, I don't know, it's an extremely personal thing, and I don't think there's any other way of measuring it aside from against your own perception of what a line in the sand that you drew on, saying, look, if I step over this line, if I eventually hit that target, I will be successful. Yeah, it's one of those corporate market jargon things.
I learned a while back that I get the most happiness from learning in life. And learning comes at a cost of mastery. The more you learn about something, the closer you get to being better and better at it. And I always subscribe to that Bruce Lee quote that a goal is often not meant to be reached. It's just meant to be aimed at. And perfection I see as one of those things. You'll never get it, but you should aim at it and keep going.
No. From personal experience, I can tell you that setting goals towards achieving perfection, goals are something that you need to hit. You need to hit the goal. If you never hit the goal, then, well, you haven't worked hard enough. So you need to set achievable goals. Because hitting goals, and this comes from me being a, previous life professional project manager. So goal in my mind might mean something completely different to anyone else. But if you set unattainable goals, you will never achieve them. Easy as that. Yeah. A goal is there to be achieved. Done. Otherwise, we would have not called it a goal in soccer or a goal in rugby. It would have been a brain fart or once again the unicorn rainbow farty thing. It has to be achievable. If you set a goal, make sure you can achieve it. That's the reason that you're working towards something higher. Yeah, the higher fit and finish. But get to my original point I want to make. The more I hit these goals, the further these goals kind of became apart from each other. In other words, I wanted to achieve a very good fit and finish whereby I could get into the South African Knife Makers Guild, the Knife Makers Guild of Southern Africa, which in itself say that you need to at least reach a certain level of fit and finish in your knife. Okay, didn't care about creativity because creativity cannot be measured, or you can't put one creative person against another. But the level of fit and finish that they achieve can be measured.
Sure.
Okay, so the day I hit that, one of the guild members, one of the founder members, about a week after that, pulled me aside and said, now that welcome to the club and the whole thing, blah, 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 blah. And one thing you should now realize is that this is the start. It's not the end. So enjoy this little platform, but realize that you now only start on your journey to try to achieve, and that's that word I hate, work towards perfection. And now perfection is not just the fit and finish, or the overall look, or the balance, or the feel, or the blah, 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 but it is your personal goal. Where are you going to be drawing the line? You follow what I'm trying to say?
I gave you. I like it.
Sorry, Grant?
No, so it sounds like good advice that guy gave you.
Yeah.
We can now go work, go do
exactly. And the same thing happened when I hit Funhead Journeyman. Yeah, it was forever and a day's worth of work and dedication to get there. And when I got there, I realized that, look, the next goal would be Mastersmith. And that in itself is a crap house full of work, more mental than physical.
So imagine.
Yeah, and same for guild. Any formal qualification that you want. I mean, guys will tell you, hey, you should be a member. You should be a member. But no one can tell you when you're ready, man. Your work might speak for itself, but until you get the guts up and actually submit to hear what your peers are saying about your work, that is something completely different. And in the guild, there is professional, part-time. No one in the guild calls himself an amateur, though. Amateur at marketing, for instance, yes. But that skill level of fit and finish, perfection, because let's face it, knife making is knife making up to a point. Then it kind of moves over into precision engineering.
Well, that's right. I mean, anyone who's seen Kyle Royer's work would know that.
Yeah, but you see the amount of dedication of that guy, the amount of time. He doesn't make a knife in a weekend. Yeah?
No.
He might.
Although he did that at Christmas. Did you see the one that he did do in a weekend? Good heavens. Oh, God.
Look, you can. We've proved this in the 48-hour dagger build-up. You can achieve a really good quality work.
And that was
but if I have to take the same amount, same project, same materials, same timeline, but not over a 48-hour period, but actually spend 48 hours working on that project, the quality will be so much better. But how many guys will now say, look, I had 48 hours doing this project over a period of 48 hours, and he could do it in 12. Yeah. Imagine the quality of the work if he actually took the 48 hours to do it.
Actually, that brings up an interesting point. Sam and I, just off air, after the 48-hour challenge was done, had a conversation about this of why did everybody's game lift up so much during just that 48 hours? For that same reason, because if they're capable of that work in 48 hours, imagine what they could do if they were to spend that sort of focus in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 5 weeks or 10 weeks on a knife. All these people that think that they weren't that good would be a lot better than they think. And we came down to it being accountability. Everybody during that 48 hours felt like they were being held accountable because they were being checked on by you or by their peers, by other knife makers, and they had to check in and they had to do all of this. But when you're just left to your own devices to make a knife in your shed, there's no accountability whatsoever. Nobody's checking in on you. And because of that, you can just go, it's good enough, it's done.
No. That boils down to that mindset thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that accountability, you've got to hold yourself accountable to do better work.
Yeah, and I kind of, man, I turned professional, in other words, full-time income from this 7 years ago, all right? And I did not have the mindset that good enough was good enough. Well, I did actually. Good enough was good enough. So in other words, I will only make what the client pays for. That's it. Done. That is it. No variation, no nothing, blah, 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 blah. Okay, if you gave me a 2,000 Rand order, I would make you a 2,000 Rand knife. Done. That's it. If according to me a 2,000 Rand knife was only standard up to a 600 grit, by the way, it's not. But if it was, you would only get a 600 grit finish. That's it. That's it, because it was production work. If you wanted something more, I would charge you more, because money was time, blah, 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 blah. Now, I don't care about the time I'm spending. And the fit and finish is where I want it to be. I don't care about who is going to own this thing. Well, I actually care. And this is the problem. I actually care about that fit and finish now, years later, a bit more enlightened, I think. I think a lot of guys will agree with me. But my mindset is now, good enough is just not good enough. I get to a point where I'm saying, look, that fit there is good. There was a slight little crack that I could probably have ground out of the tang, and I decided to cut it off. Why? Because it's not good enough.
It's an incredibly freeing moment when you give up on the concept of charging by the hour and start focusing on
that, by the way, is something that completely pisses me off. We're digressing, or are we just migrating into this?
I'd say migrating.
Migrating, I like that word. So we're migrating into how guys bill. Now, the charging per hour as a consultant, this is what I did. All right, I actually set up service level agreements with all my clients, SLAs, service level agreements. So you would buy, I had two rates, an in SLA rate and an out of SLA rate. So you would buy my time as a consultant for X amount of Rand per contract every month, and it will self-renew. So if you decided, look, you only need 2 hours of my time for the next 6 months, all right, or 2 hours per month for the next 6 months, we'd set up a contract for that. But if you phone me on hour 2.25, so 15 minutes out of the 2 hours, I would then almost double my rate, which kind of enticed the guys to buy more time. and this is where, if the guys are listening now and you know my background, you would really start paying fucking attention now. Because I sold the contracts that my company had for real money. I spent 4 days a month just doing fucking invoices. Yeah, because I had 68 contracts. There's only one guy, and there's only 24 hours in a day. Now do the math. Fucking impossible. It is possible, by the way. Okay, but anyway, I digress. What we're on about?
How you charge for your work?
Sorry?
How you charge for your work?
Oh, hourly rates, man. According
the
to me, hourly rate comes into play, and please correct me if I'm wrong here. Argue with me at the point. Hourly rate, if you're a consultant, so you're selling a service, either as maintenance or intellectual. So developers came up with the hourly rate thing because companies didn't know how to charge for guys not doing a physical thing. You're not building anything. You spend your day behind a computer, and you're not building a physical thing that can have a price tag and then sell it on. So per hour, done. So I always use the analogy on guys coming new into the game and charging per hour to make a knife. So if you spend 12 hours hand sanding a knife because you just don't know how to fucking grind, when you eventually learn how to do a proper grind, and you can grind up to 1,200 grit, spend 5 minutes, 3 minutes hand sanding a blade, and then sell it off, does your knife become cheaper?
I did a video on this same topic. If you have two blacksmiths, one who's been doing it for 20 years and one who's been doing it for 20 hours, and they are both tasked to do a simple wall hook, the beginner's going to take 2 or 3 hours to make that wall hook, and the expert's going to bash it out in 10 minutes flat. And
but you can
if they're both charging the same...
That expert is a has-been. All right, an X is a has-been, and a spurt is water under pressure. I absolutely despise that word, by the way, because that's, once again, it's a corporate jargon, marketing fluff word, an expert.
Poor terminology aside. Poor terminology.
So you can have a full-time blacksmith with 20 years worth of experience who's never made a hook. And he's going to battle maybe not as much as the other guy because he's got experience in similar fields.
You're derailing my point, Niels.
No. Well, this is what my job is. Add confusion, making guys think about it. Just because I have never done something doesn't mean I can't do it proficiently. With enough study, if I get all the theory, I go and I watch the odd 200 hours worth of video time. Even if it's the same video over and over and over and over again. I now know what the next step is. I know exactly how Alex goes about making his hooks. All right. I might not have the experience in making it, but I know exactly how to do it. I then go onto my forge and with the 20 hours, I might know how to light the thing, and not burn myself. But if I've got the right stock and I've got the process down, I might just be able to make a nice looking hook. It might take me a bit longer. Agree, disagree?
But are you going to charge the same hourly rate as the person who bash it out in 15?
It'll take me longer.
Exactly.
Yeah? And I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But if the going rate at a flea market or a market, let's call it a crafts market, for an S-hook is, I don't know what they sell for, $20? I don't know, $5? Hey, well, okay, let's call it there's only one size and they sell for $5. Yeah, I've got it on my table for $5. The guy walks past, you reckon? I'll take 4 of those.
You've actually keyed onto the exact point in my video that I make, is that the price that you will price your item for is the price you can sell it for.
No.
Because if you can't sell it,
I hear what you're saying. What's the price on anything that you create? The price on that piece is what the guy that wants it is willing to pay for it.
That's what I mean.
Okay.
Yeah. Because
So I see this a lot at knife shows where guys don't price their knives. And one of my good mates, and I'm not going to call his name, he can actually read people so well that one guy walks up to his table and says, "How much is this knife?" "No, it's $2,000. Okay. And I ask him, "What the hell?" He says, he turns away from this guy and tells me this guy ain't going to buy it. And the guy just says, "Thank you," and he walks off. Next guy comes around, he says, "How much is this knife?" The guy goes, "Oh, it's $3,500. And the guy gets fucking brilliant price. Here's the money. And I'm going, what the hell? What the fudge? And I've seen him do this consistently, where he drop the price he's had in his mind to try and convince a guy that he knows will not buy that knife. And I'm saying, dude, what happens if that guy bought it at $2,000 and the other guy that bought it at $3,500, they're mates? Your reputation as a maker will just be screwed. Okay, but anyway, Grant, you're sitting there looking like you're bored, buddy.
No, just listening intently. I mean, I'm on the selling side. So what I do on my pricing is I try and price it to sell, but then I over-deliver what I supply. Because for me, it's more important that when the person gets that thing, it knocks their socks off, and they tell other people about it at this point in my little process. So I undercharge and over-deliver big time at the moment.
Yeah, that's called building business, man. Market penetration. And it's also an ethical thing. But not a lot of guys have got that. When you really want to build a name in this game, overbuild, over-deliver, and under-promise. Yeah. But just
it's good in any business.
Don't promise anything. Yeah. Don't be the sales guy that everyone hates. Don't be the sales guy that everyone hates. Yeah. And for the guys that know me, that have spent time at knife shows with me and around me, normally guys don't want to sit next to me at a second year or a later date. Why? Because if I see a knife on your table that I think is overpriced, I'll fucking call you after it. Done.
Yes, remember that. Thank you.
I will call you out, man. But then also, if I see a piece that I like, I'll buy it. Why? Because I know you. I've done my research. And you think I go to a knife show and I haven't researched who goes to that knife show and whether I'll actually make money off of it? Fuck no. You have to put in the time. A knife show, I'm digressing again. Tex. Sorry, man. Just Tex. You might be a professional when you just say blah, 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 and somebody understands, or everybody understands. Yeah, according to my wife, I say blah, 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 blah when I speak knife, and she doesn't understand. So my wife cannot be considered as a professional. I was speaking to a knife maker, Mr. Peter Stein, and he says, well, I should get my wife to more knife shows. And I'm going, hell no. Hell no. Because if she goes there, I end up buying knives whether I wanted them or not. Mr. Jack Connon, welcome, buddy.
Hello, boys.
All right. So we've got guys saying, I've kind of missed is Dave.
Evader.
Yeah, man. Over and over, watching videos over and over and over and over, understanding the process, learning through. That's why we do these little training videos. Yeah. Why I would put up my camera and grind away. So if there's one guy that focuses and picks up on just one little small detail, how I hold the knife, how I do this, blah, blah, it's mission achieved. Yeah, that's mission achieved. I mean, if one guy just learns something from this ridiculous 1 hour and 3 minutes to going on to 1 hour and 4 minute freaking webcast, brilliant. If not, well, I've just wasted 1 hour and 4 minutes of your life.
So here's my 2 cents worth quickly, very, very quickly on this whole subject, right?
Yes.
I have been underselling myself for many, many, many years, pretty much since I started making knives. And it's only recently that I've actually sort of started pushing my prices up. But the very first knife show I ever went to was the Lowveld Knife Show. And on the last day, I dropped the prices on my table by a third. And one of the old hands walked up to my table and said, "Why are you doing that? You're not just underselling yourself, but you're also underselling your customers. If you're going to do anything, raise your prices on the last day. Chances are you'll get a sale." So I raised my prices 15% above where they were on the first and second day. And I actually sold 2 pieces.
Yes.
I didn't sell anything the first 2 days.
I've had that as well. And just on that point, it's a very, very, very valid point. I see this on every single knife show. And thank you for bringing it up, Jack. Is where guys would go through the show, they kind of get desperate, go on to the last day, and then drop prices, even half prices. And then after the show, go online, or they might not have dropped their prices at the show, but go online and saying, "Look, I've got the following 4 knives that didn't sell at my show, minus 20% on them." You are devaluating every single knife that you have sold in the past. You are kicking the guy that paid full price in the nuts and saying, "You're a fucking idiot." Next time, wait until the day after a show and you can get knives for minus 20%. That's what you're actually telling your clients, by the way. And this was pointed out to me by a collector, a big-ass collector. And he said, "Well, dude, you just devalued the investment I made in you by buying this piece. And you're not respecting yourself." So this is why professionalism, part-time, amateur, you need to put in the time. And there's the fluffy pink blanket. Or
There she goes.
what do you call that thing? Robe.
Dressing gown.
That's always fun. So, Grant, so you are the newest.
Yes, I'm like Madonna, like a virgin.
Cut for the very first time.
I like that. So here we go. Have you done a knife show before, Grant?
No, only as a buyer, not as a maker.
Okay, so from a buyer's perspective, advice for Nick.
Oh, wow. Jeez, no, I don't think
From a buyer's perspective, a guy wanting to do a first-time table holder at a knife show. From a buyer's perspective, what would you like the guy to see? And I hope you're going to follow your own freaking advice.
Yeah, I'm like Padre Yao. Is it like jinx myself here?
All right, so if you've bought a knife at a knife show, you've obviously done that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is still just for Grant, but I need for you other guys to pop in and say something as well. When you bought a knife, was the knife packaged properly? And when I say properly, it's like an open term. Not that it because you bought the knife and the thing obviously was cool.
Yeah, so
did you walk away from that table feeling that guy had all his attention on you and actually worked the sale? Did you buy the knife because you felt he worked the sale? Were you happy with your purchase, or did you suffer from buyer's remorse after the fact when you got home and you looked at the piece and you're thinking, "Fuck, did I really pay this amount of money for it?"
I think the most important thing for me,
all of it. The one thing was definitely the interaction at the table. That makes a big difference.
There's an old adage.
But yeah, it doesn't help you super nice
So
guy.
number one piece of advice is actually speak to your clients. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
All right.
Definitely. Yeah, if you make I've been at tables that you walk there and you feel like a bit of
an intruder
when you walk away from the table because you ask a question and that gives you such a answer that just shows he doesn't think you're worth his time.
Okay, so I know for a fact that you were at one of my knife shows and tried to talk to me behind my table.
Yeah, but I've bought stuff from you. So.
I absolutely despise is a knife maker walking up to my table with other guys standing there looking and handling knives and pulling a knife out that he's made and saying, "Dude, what do you think about this?" It's like, what the fuck, dude? Look, if I want to slap you on the forehead, that's what I want to do because that is my office. Yeah, I've paid good money to be there. Let me do my job, which is at that point to sell, to move product. Yeah. If you see no one at my table, come approach me, dude. But because I've got no work. Yeah, there's no one to sell to. So then approach me. And if someone pops in, step aside. And then if you really want to help the sale, you go, dude, point at the knife and say, fuck, isn't that a brilliant knife?
Yeah.
Then you're helping the sale. Don't try to sell my knives for me. Sorry, I'm not. That was the evil eye. Don't do that.
Yeah.
So, Grant, sorry, man.
No, it's
On
fine.
table layout, what comments would you give, guys? From being at a knife show, you've obviously seen, and just close your eye quickly. Think of any knife show. What was the coolest table layout you've seen?
Sure. You know the Michelle that was on earlier? I think he does quite a nice. It's not too busy. I mean, I studied psychology. There's my degree behind on the wall there. There's a thing, figure ground. The table's just too busy. No person will be able to pick up on a specific thing because it's like 150 knives on the table.
I've done that, and I can tell you it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
I prefer a table with 5 or 6 decent pieces.
Yeah, less is more.
With 150 average pieces.
Yeah, so apparently we're not talking about advice at knife shows.
Yep. you know, there's a phenomenon that I call the last lettuce problem, and it's the last lettuce problem that happens when every time you run a stall of selling anything, you run into the last lettuce problem if you do well. And there's a way that you can prepare for it at knife shows, and that is to have a really ornate display stand tucked away under the table. You don't have it out. And then when you have one thing left, everybody that walks past your table usually thinks there's something wrong with it. It's like when you go to the farmer's market and there's all the wooden crates, but there's one manky lettuce left. You innately think there's something wrong with that lettuce. I'm not going to buy that lettuce. And if you've sold everything else on your table and you've only got one knife left, everyone's going to be walking past your table thinking, that guy's he's sitting there with one knife. So pull out that display stand and put the knife on it. Make it look special.
That's only an issue on the last 20 minutes of a show.
Yeah, it depends on how well you've done.
Okay, so if you start the show with only one piece on the table, and I've seen guys do this, and this technique really fucking works. You start the show with just a picture frame on the table, just with one knife. People give that one knife all their attention. Because, immediately you're standing out from the crowd. And at Blade Show, you see this all the time, where the guys, a lot of the high-end makers will not have more than 5 pieces on their table. And there's like that much gap in between them, and they've got little frames or little ovals and little pedestals, and they only have this big-ass long table with only 5 pieces. That's it. And then one of the pieces sells, he grabs under the table, he grabs another knife, and he puts it on there. So it looks like he's selling nothing. But at the end of the show, he sold like 50 knives.
Well, my strategy.
Yeah. So it all the points I'm trying to make, and Alex, I do agree. But I won't go with the display. I will not go with the display. From me, I've been doing knife shows from about 6 months after I started making knives. My very first knife show, I made 2 knives. It was about 6 months into making knives. I had I carried knife number 5, I think, and then 6 and 7 I had on the table for sale. And I sold the knife that I was carrying. The other 2 came home with me. But aside from that, Stuart, good mate, all right, Mr. Stuart Smith, which we couldn't get hold of, and that's why he's not in here. He actually, at that knife show, did a talk on how to do the display on your knives on the table to make it easier, and speak of the devil, to make it easier for people actually to see the knives and how you should be selling and how you should be greeting guys and blah, 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 blah. And we'll get Stuart, sorry, man. The topic has now gone on to advice for knife makers at knife shows.
Okay, while Stuart's here, I'm going to get out of this chat to get Stuart in, because it sort of goes a bit haywire when there are more than 4 people.
All right, buddy.
So,
that's appreciated, Jack, your input.
I will carry on following on Facebook. Have fun.
Excellent, man. And what we're going to do is today is Monday. It is Freedom Day in Lockdown City. Okay. We will talk again. I think it is on Wednesday. I'm going to do another one. Yeah?
It's like a
What did you do
cyclone
there?
for an air intake for your 4B.
Busy
What's
making
it?
a mosaic.
Ooh.
Have fun, boys.
All right, good.
David Vader Knives has brought up a good point, and Neil's actually we brought this up on the Forgecast when we had you on. It's the air of exclusivity. Everybody wants to feel like they're getting a touch of something exclusive, and when you put a higher price on something, it makes it seem more exclusive, especially if you've got the quality to back it up. And underselling yourself, underpricing your work is going to damage you, really, because people aren't going to see it as an exclusive item as it would be if it were priced higher.
But then if I've only been doing this for 3 months, all right, I've made my first knife. A mate has now convinced me to put my knife on his table. He's an experienced guy, blah, 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 blah. I've obviously asked for his advice on pricing my knives, and that is one thing I will not give anyone. I price my knives, and I battle my ass off to do that. I will not price your knives for you. If it comes in production work, yeah, man, I've done a video on how to price your knives. Go and work. Download the spreadsheet. It is fairly easy. But on custom stuff, it is very difficult. So I charge what I believe the market can bear for that piece and where I'm at in my career. And in my career, I'm a greenie, man. I'm a fucking no one. I think I've got the hand skills almost there, where it is kind of acceptable in my realm. But
Niels is being very
I don't know
modest.
nothing.
Yes, he is.
No.
Okay,
Modesty
Niels is
and
very
humility is
modest, man.
very closely related.
Now,
But-
interesting that you're talking about this. While I was in the shitter earlier, I was reading the
you for sharing.
2020 Blade magazine. They've got an article there on why you should buy from knife dealers and why
Okay, hold on,
the
hold on,
pros and
Stuart.
cons of buying from and selling
I'm-
to knife dealers.
I'm going to stop you right there. Okay, I'm going to put you in center screen. All right, you have got 2 minutes because I now need to go through the shitter.
All right. So while contemplating my navel, I was reading through the 2020 annual, and therein they had an article on knife purveyors and knife suppliers. So the guys who sell custom knife suppliers. So these are the guys who buy from custom knife makers and semi-customs and also factory makers. And in that article, they discuss the pros and cons of buying and selling to and from knife suppliers. Now, this is guys like Blade Gallery and Arizona Custom Knives, African Custom Knives, any one of the number of knife purveyors out there that you'll go to Blade Show, you go to any show, and they've got a big stall with a variety of knife makers' work available at their table. And the guy in the article, I can't remember who wrote it, but I encourage you to go read that article, especially if you're a custom knife maker and you make your living making knives. I highly recommend going and reading that article because Niels is talking about pricing your knives, and I've come to the conclusion as well. The same, Niels came to it much earlier on than I did, but I come to the conclusion I'm no longer going to offer people advice on what they should be charging for their knives, because in the article they specifically talk about some guy who doesn't know anybody. He only knows his fellow knife makers, and his fellow knife makers are biased. You know, they like the guy or they don't like the guy, either way. And people are always telling me I need to charge more for my knives, I've never been comfortable charging what people recommend, because pricing is subjective to your own self-worth. You know, some guys are really overconfident in the pricing of their knives. Some guys are really underconfident. You know, I've seen guys at the South African Knife Maker Show. He's selling a knife there that could easily fetch 3,000 rand. He's selling it for 1,500 rand. And I ask him, well, why is it so cheap? And he goes, I just do it because I like it. He's got a job, does it in his spare time, you know, doesn't need to charge a lot for the knives. And I'm like, okay, fine. And then I see a guy charging.
So that's a bonus for the guy walking past and thinking, oh, this is a brilliant price.
Exactly.
Thank you, buddy.
It's a bonus for the
It does
guy.
bring down other people that are making and selling.
No, it does not. So sorry, Stuart. I want to just pop in there based on a comment that Alex did. Alex did. He's saying that that will devalue it. Sorry, you said.
No.
For comparable products, if you're being undercut that massively.
No, well,
But
look,
that's with the assumption that you are in competition with that guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you
Look,
see yourself as in competition with your fellow knife makers, then I suggest that you do not go to a knife show.
But it does highlight what you were saying a while back on branding yourself, because then it's they're not undercutting you because they're not selling a knife that you made. They're selling a knife that they made.
Yeah, no,
Look,
keep
Alex,
in mind, I'm not selling a knife, I'm selling me. Sorry, Steve.
The trick is, Alex, you're not undercutting yourself, okay? So you don't put a knife, like a lot of guys at knife shows, towards the end of the knife show, they want to sell out. So what they do is they put their prices down to try and sell the knives. Now, what you're doing effectively there is devaluing the knife that was purchased at the beginning of the show. Okay.
Yeah, we've just covered that. Yeah.
Hey, I paid $3,000 for this knife. Now you're charging $2,000 for it. What the hell? You know.
That's why you up your prices on the last day.
Where if there's a guy sitting next to you making comparable quality knives, and he undervalues his own worth by reducing the price of the knives, there's a thing in a buyer's head that says, "Oh, that's cheap. There's something wrong with it." This is a common thing that happens amongst buyers, and I'm learning this from dealing with knife suppliers. My knife supplier, Daniel, Bait Gallery, and
Dealers,
the cheap knives that they don't sell because it doesn't matter if the quality is excellent. Somebody says, "Hey, gee, what's wrong with that knife?" But a knife of lesser quality that's priced more is more likely to sell because it's a psychological thing, you know. So even though the guy makes great quality knives, you can have them sitting next to you at a lesser price and yours are more. If the guy's bargain hunting, then he's not a proper knife buyer. They're just somebody looking for a present. Yes, they will buy from that guy. But if he's a knife collector and somebody who's educated on how knives are made, he can see the value in what's being produced. And then that's when the cheaper prices become suspicious and the mid-range prices become more appealing. I don't know why, but that's just the way it is. And that's what this article covers in 2020 Blade Knives Annual, is relying on a knife purveyor to help you set a price, because they're the guys who deal with the market. They know what's popular and they know what's going to sell. But
what you also need to keep in mind is from the purveyor is they normally will take a 30% cut on the actual sales price. So it is in his best interest to market and sell that knife for, once again, the price that the market can bear, based on the reputation of the maker. And that's the important thing. The reputation of a maker does have a huge impact on the price of a
another
knife.
Thing is, it's in the purveyor's interest, self-interest, to make sure that what he's supplying is popular, that he has faith in the product that he's buying so that he can promote it, and that, because in the end he wants to make money, okay, and he makes money by selling knives. And Niels and me and whoever sells knives, our customer base is like this. Now you look at a guy like these knife suppliers, they supply custom knives. We can't fathom. People go to them. You've seen the adverts, full-page adverts in flipping magazines and Knives Annual. And that stuff's not cheap, you know.
No, it's not.
They can.
But I want to get you guys to.
We lost your audio, Neil.
Yeah, audio went
Niels is muted.
Is that? Am I back?
He's back.
Okay, so Eugene is saying, how do you know when you reach a specific quality in your knives for them to be good enough to sell? Now, I have always maintained the thing is, dude, doesn't matter what the quality of the knife is. It's more to do with the price, because every single piece out there, whether it be a piece of crap, whether it be an absolute brilliant made piece, if the price is not right, that knife will have an owner out there.
I have a different opinion.
I think Niels has seen this happen to me, and it happened to him a couple of times, where we've made a knife and we think, oh God, you know, look, it's technically nice, but aesthetically it's a bit off. It doesn't feel right, and you put it out and you think, oh fuck, that's going to be the last knife that sells. And I guarantee you, every single time, every single fucking show, that's the first knife that sells. And I don't know why. Okay, because you got all the trouble to make the perfect knife, perfect aesthetically pleasing knife. You know, it's got the right design, it's got the right lines, and there's 10 of them on your table, and there's this one bloody hammered piece of bubble gum sitting there, and somebody's going to look at that and they're going to go, "Ooh, that's nice. I'll take that." And you're thinking like,
You want to shake
Why?
it. I have a different
But
answer
it
for
makes
you,
no
Gene, on that topic. I would say that first and foremost, a knife is a tool. And so the specific quality that you're aiming for is performance. And I would say that you're testing on the knife and what it's capable of doing for the task that it's designed for would play a huge role in whether it's good enough to sell. Because if it has no edge retention, then...
Having said that, Alex, having said that, a knife, because we as custom makers, we ensure that every knife we make, even Niels's $2,000 dagger or whatever he's working on right now, okay, that knife has been correctly heat treated. It's going to be correctly tempered. The tang and everything is going to be correctly made and strong. So despite being a big fancy knife, it should, and I believe it would pass a bend test and a wood chop. I mean, not that it's specifically designed for that. But
I can see a guy pulling out a 2,000 rand or dollar dagger to do a wood chop. Yeah,
and
the same guy would probably use his straight razor as well.
But that's why it's good enough to sell.
Alex, hold on, I'm going to put you on the spot here. So you know that I specialize in daggers and stilettos. Yeah, how would I test the functionality of a stiletto? Jack Connon, we just had in. How would you test the edge holding ability of a straight razor? Yeah, while shaving. Yeah, but once you've used it, you can most probably go and sterilize it again. But I don't want to use. I like the people around me, right? I don't want to go around and stab people just to test how efficiently this thing penetrates.
Do you try it on his beard?
I have actually done that. I have ordered a pig to be spit bride. All right. And when I made my combat spike, man, people at the party was trying to figure out why all the ribs were cracked. I was taking this thing, finding a rib, and then just lightly tapping it and make sure that it can actually split a rib, just to get the edge geometry right. Yeah. And once I had that, man, I have sold combat spikes. I'm talking thousands of them. Thousands.
Now, to get back on point, Niels.
Yeah, I kind of. This is what I do in this show.
Okay. Alex is saying functionality comes first, which is correct. But you can have a functional knife, two functional knives, and one is of superior construction. I'm just going to use like a normal hunting knife, and one has been well put together, but the quality is a little bit less, and they're both going for the same price. I can tell you now, somebody will buy the better one. When I say better, the better constructed one over the one that has got gaps and maybe has a little bit asymmetry in the grind and whatnot, you know. So there is something to be said for the fit and finish. You can put knives on a table because you look at the knife on the table, you don't know how it's going to cut. It's just there. You're buying a knife based on what it looks like. It's up to the maker and the maker's reputation to make sure that the knife that he supplies is of sufficient quality to perform.
Yeah.
Well, yes, you're correct. The performance comes first. But if you want to sell a knife, it's got to look good. It's got to have good fit and finish. It's got to have good symmetry. It's got to, it's got to have a nice sheath. It's got to have all those little trimmings that make it desirable to a customer. Because I mean, we've seen really good quality knives that perform really well, but they've all got forged finishes and the guards don't fit properly. And, you know, there's all sorts of things that aesthetically make it less appealing than a knife that has been well put together. So
are we specifically talking about blade shows here, though? Because I've sold some pretty... When I was first getting started, some of my first knives were awful, but they sold.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, every knife is a buyer. There's no mistaking that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
which is why I was just
thinking, look, I have just spent $5,000 setting up a workshop. I need to get that back within the first 10 knives. That ain't going to ever fucking happen.
No.
Never. Doesn't matter how nice the knife is based on your wife and your family's feedback. Trust me when I tell you that knife sucks. Yeah? You would be happy if you just double the material and the material cost and get that back. At some point, man, I've made losses selling knives. Yeah, and if a knife has gone to 3 knife shows, there's no one that wants it. Donate it. Yeah, to your favorite charity and have them auction it off. That's as easy as that.
Along with that statement, every night.
Sorry, hold on. Another one. Another thing I want to just mention.
Yeah.
Any feedback on this? I started doing a lot better at shows when I stopped looking at them as income generators rather than a marketing opportunity. Online sales have made it far easier and
Not stress. and
easier
undercut
to not
myself.
stress and undercut myself. Yes, it is. It is. So a good friend, Tian Berger, made a statement a couple of years ago, and that kind of just opened that entire thing, just made sense for me. He says, a show is exactly that. You are there to show what you are capable of. People expect a sing and dance. They expect to be entertained. Yes, I do exactly that. And then he made just one additional comment. He says, there's 30 knife makers in a hall. Be the one guy that they remember a week after the show. And that there is the aim behind marketing.
I can attest to this personally. If you go to any knife show with Niels, just fucking irritating, really. You see the customers 2 and 3 deep around his table. It sucks. You don't want a table next to Niels because people.
You want to share the table.
Look at Niels' table. Because Niels talks the biggest lot of shit out of any knife maker you ever know, and it's funny as hell, and it's entertaining to watch, and he keeps everybody entertained because he just goes waka 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 waka. I used to do that. I can't do that anymore. I get too tired, man. I just sit there kind of bleak-eyed looking at Niels going, you know.
I mean, I remember the coolest thing is when you Dex last year, yeah, Durban East Knife Show, which we should have been at like last weekend, the weekend before, if that wasn't for the lockdown. But I mean, the ass end of the show on the Saturday afternoon, there's a couple of guys walking around. It is buyers, yeah, and then a lot of knife makers are starting to walk around. And at some point, I just made a big scene and told everyone, I just literally screamed and said, get your fucking asses in front of my table. Done. And everyone, including some of the knife makers, came in. And I'm saying, if you're not in front of my table, I'm calling you a fucking idiot. Blah, blah, blah. And I made a scene. Like
People
a big
want to
scene,
be told what to do.
All right? And then I handed one guy a knife. I don't know who the hell he was. I just handed him a knife, and I wouldn't take it back. And people don't want to put the knife down. They want to hand it because you handed it to him. And I avoided eye contact with the guy. All right? And eventually, he's kind of feeling uncomfortable, and he hands me money. I didn't take his money. I used that as an example of just a social conditioning technique, and this is used at large shows by large corporates. You would seed the crowd. In other words, get your mate in the crowd, get a pool of people, and then when you eventually ask money, there's this guy from the back saying, okay, I'll take that knife. And especially he does that when another guy is already looking at the knife and contemplating whether he should buy it or not. He's kind of on the fence. So there are a lot of fucking techniques, whether you want to call them sometimes scaly or not, doesn't matter.
You're a dragon. You're the black dragon. It's got to be scaly.
The Niels is leaving out.
Well, you can be. Yeah, but you need to do it with a smile. And the guy that you did in should not feel that he was done in.
Exactly. Like I said, there's a huge factor that Niels is leaving out, is that you also have to be Niels to be able to pull this off. Okay? If anybody else tried it, they'd get flunked out, and the guy would tell him to piss off, and he would leave.
But this goes into what we were talking about before. Like, being good at making knives isn't enough. You've got to really get into some other fields. You've got to understand a bit of psychology. You've got to understand a bit of be theatrical, be dramatic, be loud, be charming, be in people's faces. But understand marketing and color and stance and lighting and all of these things. Understand it, and you'll be able to present yourself correctly.
Well, look,
Sam, I do understand.
Sorry, yeah, read it, Niels.
So, Sam, I agree. Everyone can read. Well, that's an assumption. Yeah. I, as a business, if you sell subpar stuff, your reputation will suffer, and the market will kick your butt. If you just started out, dude, all your stuff is subpar.
Yeah.
So,
I've still got some of my original knives, man. Oh, we don't look at those.
I've got the first knife that I made after I did your 2-day class. Right?
Yeah, did you find the other one?
Sucks so bad. I mean, it's more comfortable upside down in the hand than it is the other way around, right? I'll never sell it. But I have been offered like real money for that knife. I'm talking not just 100, I'm talking thousands of dollars for that knife.
Every knife that I've owned,
Fucking stupid.
I've made
by
for
the way.
myself. Every knife that I've owned that I made for myself, there was like something slightly wrong with it. I couldn't live with it. So, okay, fine, I'll make a nice sheath. And I carry it at knife shows. I sell that knife for about 20% more than I sell all the other ones. Because guys want the knife that you own, the one that you think is good enough for you to use, you know? And that's why I've stopped carrying a knife, because people want to buy the one that I'm always wearing on my hip. I've got one knife that I did a collab with Kevin Harvey when I went to, because Kevin Harvey did the ABS Introduction to Bladesmithing, and he got the flu halfway through. So he called me, and I went and helped him finish the course. And then the blade that he'd made, I made the handle for that blade. So it's a collaboration between the two of us. It's the only Stuart Smith Kevin Harvey collaboration knife, and it's mine. He gave it to me, and I keep it now. I've got it on my belt, but whenever I wear it on my belt, people want to buy it. So now I've stopped wearing it because it's mine. It's the one I actually want to do.
And that is another technique I have used to great effectiveness at knife shows, especially on my production stuff. So I'm wearing a hybrid or a karambit or whatever knife that I'm making. So I'll pack up all the knives and I'll pick one and I'll put it on. As soon as show's open and the guys come out and they rush the tables and the whole thing, and the guy always wants to know what knife I'm wearing. I'm saying, no, this is mine. No, sorry. Don't even have a look.
No, and then he wants to buy
a hybrid. And I put it back. And then the guy wants to buy my fucking knife that I'm carrying that I picked off the table 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Just ran.
Yeah, that works.
So you sell it off your belt. And you make him feel really guilty that you bought the knife that you're carrying.
There's an old...
You grab one and you don't put it on behind your table. You go to the loo, right? And you then put it on. And you come back and 2 hours later, someone wants to buy the knife that you're carrying.
There's an old saying in sales.
Into you. It's got nothing to do with the knife that you're carrying. The knife is good. Don't get me wrong. The knife is good. But they want to buy the knife that you're carrying.
There's an old saying in sales and marketing where...
all things, good luck, buddy.
Yeah. There's an old saying in sales and marketing. I don't personally agree with all the time, but it does stand true quite a lot, that any deal is only good if both parties feel like they've both lost and gained something. And sometimes that's just the perspective from the other party. So if that person thinks that you're reluctantly giving over this thing, it makes them feel like you're giving something up, and it feels to them like it was a good deal. They got something out of you, you know?
Yeah,
exactly.
That usually works with bartering. When I barter for tools or equipment or supplies or whatever, the bottom line of the barter is you both got to feel like you won. Even if on one side you think, geez, like, is that all he wanted for all that stuff? And he's thinking the exact same thing. He says, the guy took all this stuff and he gave me this awesome knife. You both think you're ripping off the other guy, but as long as you're both happy, that's all that matters, you know?
And sometimes that just means putting on an act.
Yeah.
That's why you're there for, is to entertain them. Acting is kind of the thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look,
I mean, I'm normally not a quiet guy, but at a knife show, fuck, dude, I go overboard. I mean, after a 2-day knife show, never mind a 3-day knife, I don't want to see another living being for at least fucking 2 weeks. I mean, myself and Stuart, we're good mates, all right? So we chat maybe twice a month. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Then we go to Blade Show. We spend 6 days together, and then we don't speak to each other for like 4 fucking months. It's not that I don't like him. I've just had enough.
Yeah.
We never spoke for about 2 months after Blade.
Yeah, exactly.
Niels, why do you think I live out in the middle of the mountains on a tiny island?
Like I told you, dude, you made that choice, right? I mean, I moved out of the city to get away from people. I
moved away from Brisbane City.
I'm talking serious knock in my business. When I was still in Pretoria in town, I just walk in business about 8 to 10 knives a week. Just walk in business. Now, I always had stock, and the guys that were at my old shop, I had an entire entrance like thing with at least 50 knives up on display. Anyone could buy a knife anytime. You just walked in. You didn't have to have an appointment. You walked in, grabbed a cup of coffee, and walked out with a knife. Okay. Next time around, guys would bring their mates. I had guys with biker dudes pitch up 5 or 6 guys and make it an afternoon outing. Yeah. When I moved out here, I canned all of that, and I lost a large portion of my income. But that was a conscious decision. Yeah. But anyway, sorry, Eugene is saying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, it's
look,
like a good meal. You eat a meal with your eyes first, and then your nose second, and then your mouth finally.
well, right in the beginning, in around about 2008, 2009, I wrote an article for the now defunct Sharp Shapes Knife Club. Okay, all about how to sell knives. Okay, and I read a couple of tips in Blade magazine from like Don Fogg and a bunch of other guys who sell knives at knife shows, and they put some really good tips out. And I contacted Don and I asked him if I could quote some of his stuff verbatim. And after sitting at knife shows, I kind of, because when I started out, I was doing every Mampur Feest and Tani Feest and Confeit Feest. Sorry, these are like crafters festivals with old ladies selling doilies, okay? And there's Stuart sitting there, boom, with all these knives on the table. They, oh, my darling, this is so violent, you know? And every weekend I would sit there, and after a while, you kind of gauge, because I was there because husbands always dragged me. And there was the one guy selling knives, and the husband was like, ooh, okay. And then I spoke to all the husbands and the sons, because the wives were all busy doing other stuff. And you don't take your knives to Mampur Feest because there are a bunch of idiots there getting them. Okay, so I learned that the hard way.
Yeah, me as
anyways,
well.
But after wow, it's 2020. So after 16 years of knife shows, all right, I came to the conclusion of the things that you look out for, and like simple things like you always stand up at your table, you know, because when I first started doing knife shows, there were a bunch of old men sitting like this behind their tables. They didn't talk to anybody. They didn't interact with anybody. People were embarrassed to ask them questions. They didn't want to touch the knives. And I think these old boys were satisfied with that. And along came Stewie, and I read this article, and I think, shit. And then I stood up, and I interacted with people. And before Niels, I was Niels, okay? So everybody would come to knife table. And now I'm just too fucking old. Niels has taken up the mantle of the talkative guy at the knife shows. And now I sit down with my arms crossed.
Okay. I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to pause you, not stop you. I'm going to pause you. Now, the very first knife show I did was with Stuart. So as a new maker, I suggest that you go share a table with an accomplished or a knife maker that has done numerous shows. Yeah, because where he was going and saying, look, everything I know about selling, kind of I learned from this guy. Yeah, Mr. Stewart down there, because I saw him scream at guys at a knife show. Yeah, and the guys were laughing his ass off, and I'm thinking, what the fuck? And I'm standing there next to him sharing a table, and eventually I was talking so much to this guy, he goes, you need to learn when to shut up. Sorry, man.
Yeah, there's always that one guy who's looking at the knife, and he keeps coming back to your table. And there's a time when you've got to stop trying to sell that knife and let the knife sell itself. You know?
Yeah, and I remember a piece of advice you gave me there was have your knives priced. So what I did was just my business card, I folded it flat and I made sure my business card was white in the background or on the other side, and I could write your name on it. All right, but because I had two little spaces, I had two different prices on there. So I saw the guy approaching, and then I'll turn the card for the highest price. And then he comes and he looks at the price. You know he wants to buy this thing, but the price that's the thing that's keeping it out of his pocket. And as soon as he steps away, I turn the card back. So he sees the price, and then he comes back, and I put the more expensive. So we played this little game. And that was my first real interaction with a potential buyer, where it's a bit of give and take. You know you're going to give him the discount, right?
Again, Niels can do that. I didn't do that.
which was really cool, man. Guys are there for the entertainment value. And, I mean, I've had guys just running past the table. They're on their way somewhere else, right? And you grab a business card, you say, dude, at least take this pamphlet or the business card that when you're sitting on the toilet tonight, all right, kicking your ass for not buying that knife, at least you've got something to give yourself a paper cut with.
Yeah.
And then the guy would stop. He's laugh his ass off, and the first thing he does is look at what's on your table. All you need to do is just stop people in their mindset, their busy lives, stop them. Because your aim as the sales guy there is to not sell the knife, get people to just look at what you have. Because your knife is pretty much as a house. You think that the chick guy showing you the house is selling you the house? No. If your wife says she likes the house, and the bank manager agrees that you can afford the house, that's the house you buy.
I mean, humor is one of those universal
prove me
things.
wrong.
It spans age, it spans race, it spans religion, it spans everything. Everybody loves a laugh.
Exactly.
Look,
And especially in a room, 30 other guys, and everybody's sitting there.
Exactly, yeah. The trick with being a successful knife seller, to sell your own knives. First of all, I can't sell anybody else's knives. Except for maybe Niels. I could sell Niels' knives really, but my own knives, I can't sell anybody else's knives. But the idea is, look, we as YouTubers, okay, and people who do live broadcasts are accustomed to staring at ourselves in the face while we speak to the anonymous dozens that watch us, okay? But
That's a weird
what
thing.
that comes from, I know. What that comes from is being at knife shows and being able to talk to strangers, because a lot of knife makers don't know how to talk to people, all right? They are used to doing their work, whether they are a full-time maker or a part-time maker. They're used to being in the office. They're used to talking to people they know. Now they come to a knife show and they've got these hundreds of people, all anonymous, don't know who they are, don't know their names, don't know anything, and you're trying to interact with strangers for the first time. And in the beginning, you come across as a little bit awkward, and you can see the people who are doing it for the first time. They're very tense. They're trying, but you can see it's not in their blood. It's not in their DNA. They haven't reconfigured their mental programming yet. And Niels and myself and you as well, Alec, you do a lot of live broadcasts and stuff, so you're accustomed to people listening to you and commenting and criticizing, especially with the things that you do and say.
Background.
So you're accustomed to this. So speaking to people in public is not so much an issue as it is for guys who generally just sit there staring at the computer screen, watching other people and then commenting, because it's just you, one individual, saying something to the person who's actually doing the presentation. And the skill and I don't know, just the natural permeation of the public in general, just like looking at you, staring at you, and suddenly, I have to do demonstration every year at the Knife Makers Guild show. All right, I mean, I've been doing it so long now, it's just second nature. But for somebody who does it for the first time, they tend to overthink everything and overanalyze it. The same as somebody doing their first knife show. They try too hard to sell when you realize that it's actually not that difficult, and it takes a long time to settle into that rhythm. And like I said, with
I
me and Niels
enjoyed the one 2 years ago. Sorry, I was particularly enjoying the forging demo at the Guild show you did 2 years ago, where you lost your voice, and I played your voice, which was freaking awesome, right? Because he could speak, but it was not very loud, and he had this whole, like, he gargled with razor blades and blah blah blah. So his voice was not projecting. So I took the microphone. And he was going on blah, 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 explaining this entire process. And I go, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So it was like a really bad dubbed movie, right? And the people laughed their asses off. I cannot explain to you the power of just getting people to just smile and laugh at you.
The funny thing with that was,
stop caring what people think of you is the main thing. Yeah, care about what they think about the product that you produce, but what I look like, who gives a shit? Yeah,
if it was like
the funny thing about that was some of the things you were talking about. I was like, that's not what I'm doing. What the hell? I was like, you know, your dub and your audio, your video don't cross up quite exactly, you know, and you're a little bit behind. Oh, geez, that was entertaining.
Yeah, man. Or you're doing a demonstration, and you've got your phone trying to record this thing. And you just call someone out of the audience saying, "Hey, you know what this is, yeah? You pick someone that is way younger than you, yeah, that you actually know this guy knows what the hell." And you give him the phone. And you say, "Go interview people," and it's amazing what people will do. And no, I haven't lost a cell phone yet, but I've got the coolest fucking video footage ever, because he's there and he's really interested in what you're doing, and you're kind of just running through the motions, right? And his point of view and what he's recording is obviously something that is close to his heart, which is brilliant. That's why I give my phone to my youngest every now and then. I gave him the gimbal, the little swilly thingy, stood on record, and dude, that video is fucking funny. It is really funny. I mean, he's interviewing the chickens.
Did he
That's
find
funny,
that chameleon?
And it's funny. Yeah, he had the chameleon on there and the whole thing. It was really freaking cool. So, Grant, let's get back to Grant. He's just sitting there, right? Advice from a buyer's perspective. Oh, Mr. Zwan is back in the house as well. So, advice from a buyer's perspective.
I wanted to hear if, I'm assuming we're not going to have any blade shows anytime soon.
The next one's probably the Guild show.
Yeah, if you translate your experience of these shows into an online platform, I'm assuming a lot of the same principles will apply.
Well, I mean, anybody who's done YouTube videos will be used to that sort of thing, but it's going to be different. It's not going to be the same rules. It's still going to be putting yourself out there, but people still want to see you. They want to see the process. They want to see where it's come from. They want to see the soul in the blade. So if you allow me to get a bit poetic there, but it's going to be different. And I always call it, whenever I was consulting back in my past life, I'd call it pivoting. You take the tools that you have, and you pivot, you go a slightly different direction. You work with what you've got. And if we have to move to virtual knife shows,
in other words, now fuck off in that direction.
That's it.
This direction ain't working.
That's it. I mean, if we have to move to virtual knife shows, which may actually happen, you're still going to be able to, instead of standing at a table and selling the knives that are in front of you, you're going to be selling everything through a little window in somebody's phone that while they're sitting on the toilet, they're going to be looking at you. So you've got to be able to frame it right.
If you're on the shitter, send me proof and you'll get a 2% discount.
Yeah.
I've got a good chance of selling a knife to Stuart.
He's probably on it right now.
No, he's lucky not. Unless that's a green screen.
There we go.
So virtual knives, not virtual knives, but selling knives virtually is kind of what been happening through social media. Whether it's actually a live show is a difference between, I know of 2 or 3 little lockdown knife shows on Facebook that has been happening worldwide. So 3 different guys have organized little knife shows on Facebook. By the way, listen closely. Facebook is not the fucking platform for doing a live or a online virtual knife show. What we have here, see, Alex, you were talking about your little box. You're in that little box right now. Now imagine just 6 guys, all right? Each of you get 10 minutes and you only get to bring 2 knives. So that's a 1-hour knife show.
I'd be down for that.
10 minutes to talk guys through that piece that you're now doing. But with proper edited broadcasting software where you've got photos of the pieces of your pieces that you're going to be selling and what you're going to be talking about, detailed shots of that, professional shot, not looking at all cell phone shots, sent to the guy that's hosting it. In this case, it would be me. So I could then bring in a second screen where that piece of yours is being talked about, and you hold on the piece and blah blah blah, and the guy hosting it can actually flip through to a high resolution, a high quality photo of that piece. That is how you sell a fucking knife online. And yes, that is going to happen. I'm working on it. It's going to happen. So a 1-hour knife show where you, as the maker who gets invited to this lot, will obviously have to do some marketing. Yeah, is what you do. So you have to market. You have to get your audience there. The host will obviously do what he can to get that there. Blah blah blah. But yes, a live interactive preview of knives. Blah blah blah. That's how you sell it virtually. And I honestly believe that is where we're going. Selling knives virtually. So you could still have the knife show. You could still have the interaction. You can still have your guys telling you that they wish your voice was a bit deeper.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, up the bass on your computer. All of a sudden, I'll be talking like this. Yeah. All right, so Mr. Zwan, you have just joined us. Yeah?
Yep.
Again. So, have you bought a knife from another knife maker at a knife show?
No, I haven't, because it's always busy at my table, and I'm always constantly chatting with the customers. And yeah, I do walk around, of course, and I see a lot of stuff that I really like. But somehow there's never enough time, or
Okay,
whatever,
so
to really
just
interact
making
with that.
excuses, man.
Sorry, come again?
You're just making excuses. Okay, so the answer is no. You have never bought a knife from a knife show. So am I correct
No.
in assuming that you didn't go to knife shows prior to making knives yourself?
No, never.
Did you even know there was something like a knife show before you started making knives?
Yes. The first that I heard about knife shows was actually from you. Because I bought my first knife from made by a knife maker, was actually your knife, and I started following you on Facebook, and that's when I heard about the whole knife story, knife making, and what got me interested in starting to make knives.
Excellent,
So, yeah,
man. So thank you very much for your business, and you've now become a mate. So next knife,
Only
I'm
now.
going to charge you, right? Damn it!
I've never bought a knife from a knife maker, but I've traded many knives with knife makers. Every knife I have in my collection, which is not very big, maybe about 20 knives, I've traded with makers. I've got one of Niels's, I think the first steak knife Niels made. It must have been about the fourth or fifth knife he ever made. And he put it in
only hidden tang steak knife I've ever made, by the way.
It was a hidden tang, but was in a solid block of wood with no guard, and it was flawless. It was beautiful. So that's still sitting in my collection.
Thank you.
You know, I've traded up and I've traded down a couple of times. Some guys have gotten knives from me that have been what I thought were really good, and I got a bit of a lemon in return. But on the opposite side, I've also got some really nice knives that I've given lemons in return. So when I get a knife, whether it be good or bad, and we agree on a trade, whether it's good or bad, I'm always happy to increase my knife collection by trading with other knife makers.
Okay, so now I'm going to pick a random guy here and then ask a question. Same question. Grant.
Yes. Same question. I've
handmade knife. Did you buy it? Your very first handmade knife. Did you buy it at a knife show?
No, not at a knife show. But the one thing I remember buying was you guys had a charity auction thing at one of those Emma things where Lynn Ray was, and I bought a few things there. Yeah, I bought one of your X's there, but it was for a good cause, so I felt compelled.
Dude, thank you. Thank you. That's appreciated. Yeah, and the cause there was whose workshop?
Yeah, I remember.
It was for Heather's niece.
No. It was at Lynn Ray, the auction we did.
Oh, yeah. It was for Carl Smith's workshop.
Carl, there we go. Yeah. His workshop burned down completely and blah, 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 and he had to replace everything. And Stuart did a video on YouTube.
The roof of his workshop collapsed and wrecked everything. And he even showed us, it was so bad, even the center punch was bent. So
he pretty much replaced everything. But thank you.
Every tool in his workshop was rusted through. You can't believe it.
We digressed. Apparently, that's what we do. But Grant, to get back to, so that was the first custom piece that you bought, or handmade?
Yeah, sure.
Have you bought anything else?
Prior to making, did you ever go to a knife show?
No. I only started going to knife shows after I started making.
Okay, so the other question I have is, did you know that knife shows, and this is the more important one, did you know that knife shows even existed prior to making? No,
I didn't. No. It was only after making.
Because I am obviously a knife show organizer, and it's kind of something that that everyone, or every attendee to a knife show need to work on getting the word out. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Alex,
I mean, your marketing was fantastic. The same as Michelle. The first time I heard of a knife show was when I started following you on YouTube and Facebook and.
I'm sorry to hear, man.
First
So,
knife show I attended
That's when the shit
was
started.
First knife show I attended was 92, somewhere around there. It was at the Gold Reef City Knife Makers Guild show. Oh, let's get some focus, yeah? Focus on me instead of the background. Anyways, and I went and I saw Kevin's buffalo knife. If you haven't seen the buffalo knife, you have to find it online. It's got the head of a bison. So not the buffalo, a bison knife. It's got the head of a bison on it, and I shit you not, the thing is about just under a meter long. It's huge, man, and it's like Kevin Harvey quality handle material, with spaces and geez, man, it was so good, and with a big hand carved bison head on the back. Really cool knife. That's what wowed me. Also wanting to go on all the rides while my dad was dragging me around the knife show.
So Nick has asked the question, how you guys, everyone on the screen, feel about someone sending you a knife for an honest feedback, and then keep free of charge, no strings attached. Although if you're sending a knife to anyone for a review, I would personally expect that knife to go back to its owner. You're not giving the knife to that guy. You're asking for an honest opinion. And if the guy worth his salt, he would obviously just give you his honest opinion and then send the knife back. So what you can do is just a self-addressed box in a box. That'll send it back. But with technology, there's no need for you to send a knife anywhere. Yeah. Just learn how to take proper photos and go through it.
On that front, there's something to be said. Like if you give your knife to Blade Magazine or to one of their, what's her name, Kelly or whatever her name is, she does the knife.
Oh, the one with the personality.
Yeah, and she goes camping and she actually takes the knife and she uses it, and then you get that. That's proper advertising you get in return at the cost of a knife. And I think that is worth giving a knife to somebody. However, just to give the knife to somebody and get their opinion and then wanting to keep that knife there, that's a big no-no. That's not good business. That's all I have to say about that.
Go on, your feeling on that?
Yes, Forrest.
Have you criticized, vetted someone's knife for them, given them feedback on a knife that they've given you?
No, I've never done that. But I think as a maker, you should be able to see if you're doing it right or good. I personally don't think I need anybody's opinion at this stage to see my mistakes and my errors and where I can improve. I think if you get to a point where you
did a nosedive behind you.
The aliens invading you.
But yeah, if you get to a point where
people.
All right, sorry, we see you. There's quite a lengthy comment. Liam, how's it going, buddy?
Love your accent,
Oh,
man.
that's a lot of reading.
See, now all you've done is you've taken our third world education and make all the knife makers squint.
I'm not wearing my glasses.
Yeah, I agree, buddy. I agree. If you have fun while you're making it, then by all means, if you yourself at a knife show, people pick up on that, right? It doesn't help me when I'm not live. I still swear. I actually swear and cuss a bit more than normal.
I can attest to this personally that Niels is who he is when you see him on video. So Niels is not faking anything. And I try not to do this.
The point that Liam is making is that people will look through you. Yeah, they'll pick that up. And we've seen this how many times? Yeah.
This is what I'm trying to say. Because if you watch the YouTube guys, okay, I can honestly say I haven't met many of the YouTube guys, but the ones that I do know are exactly the same. So we're talking about fake it till you make it, right? So you pretend to be somebody on YouTube. You pretend to be this bigger personality, but when you meet them in person, they're like, hang on. I've met Jason Knight, okay? If anything, he tones it down.
That guy's awesome, man.
Okay? The guy is a lunatic, all right? I was sitting there with Calvin. You've met Calvin, Niels?
Yes, I have.
And he takes this big Damascus integral cookery with like snake. This thing must have been worth about $2,500. And he says to Calvin, he's good friends with Calvin. He says, Calvin, what do you think of this? And we're like oohing and eyeing over it. And we look up and Jason's gone. And he left this knife with us. And suddenly the two of us are sitting here like criminals, wondering what the hell are we going to do with this knife? We don't know where Jason went. And we spent half an hour trying to find him to give him the bloody knife back. And he just left it with us. He didn't care. It was amazing. But now I've met Niels, and I know Niels. He swears, he smokes, he doesn't drink a lot. Okay, but you know, he is who he says he is online. And even more so when he's in front of his table. When you meet him in person, you don't see that as fake. But I understand where Liam is coming from. But I think you can be successful if you be yourself when you're presenting yourself in any format, whether it be YouTube or at a show or in person to other your fellow makers. And it's all about honesty and credibility, you know. So when I know Niels is Niels, and I know Michael, and I know Alex from your YouTube channels. I think I might have met you at Blade Show last year. I can't remember.
Me? No.
No, not. Okay, so all those Australians, they all look the same, man.
You would have remembered this face.
Dude, you just did the classic. Have you been to Cape Town?
I was sick as a dog, okay, when I was at Blade Show. I was so sick and I was so tired and my legs were swollen and they were sore. And these bastards kept giving me beers. Eventually, I just had to, when they weren't looking at me, kind of just back out of the bar and kind of drag myself to the bedroom. I think Niels got home at about midnight. I was just fast asleep with Jan Wall on the couch. We were both so fucking tired. And I got actually proper pissed because I don't drink a lot. And they
we don't talk Blade Show. We don't talk Blade Show without the guys there. So we need to get Jan Wall in there, in here, because I've got one story, right? 2 years ago. 2 years ago. I mean, it only starts getting like dark at like 9-10 in the evening, right? So the sun starts setting and Jan is complaining. He's been complaining for like half a day, according to me, that he's tired, he's hungry, blah, 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 blah. Now, Jan is the most rustig. No one will understand rustig unless you're Afrikaans or something. Quiet and laid-back guy you've ever met.
Yeah, he's a gentleman. He's a gentleman knife maker.
He is the coolest. But anyway, so we're sitting in this restaurant. And we've just ordered, I don't know what it was, a steak and peas and mash and blah, blah, blah. Jan has got a spoon of mashed potatoes halfway to his mouth, sleeping.
He wasn't drunk.
He was so tired, man. And we were waiting for the guys from African Custom Knives to hit Atlanta. Because they were driving right through, and I promised them I'll buy them their first meal, so just come pop in. And we were waiting. But the guys in the restaurant was taking photos of Jan sitting with that spoon, and just it was so funny. But yeah, Grant, to get back to you, buddy.
Hey.
So let me get back to Grant. Yeah, we're still on the advice that you would give a potential buyer at a knife show. Would you say walk through the entire knife show? Or when you come across a guy's table and you see a knife that speaks to you, do you buy it right there?
I'm not sure, but I mean, guys that I've spoken to at knife shows, buyers, a lot of them go there to buy from a specific maker. That's the mission. So they want maker A or B, and they try and get that specific product. I'm not sure how many guys go and sort of just browse and impulsively buy something. There must be some of them.
I think it's a large portion of guys buy impulsively. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, the guys I know that come to a knife show specifically to buy a knife from me. Okay.
Yeah.
And I can only, I'm just transferring the mindset to other customers who go to knife shows to look at other knife makers' knives. You go into the knife show, you zero in on the guy you want to buy from, and you head straight to his table and you complain at him when there's no knife. And then you go and you look around at the other knife makers. I know
Yeah.
a lot of guys, especially at the Durban show and the Guild show, they will go to my table, they'll head to Niels's table, and they'll do one or two other tables. And they want to go to the knife makers they like first. And once they're done with that, and if they're satisfied with that, generally they just window shop. But if there's nothing to be had for them at these tables, they will then take their money to other knife makers' tables and potentially invest their money there.
Yeah.
Which I think is
Okay,
good.
so I need
My
to
knife show
put-
is so nice.
All right, so now I'm putting Alex on the spot again. Brother, have you exhibited at a knife show before?
Yes.
All right, what show was it?
Knife show was good.
It was a local one. It was not one of the big ones. It was just a. It was called the Big BIG Gun and Knife Show.
Oh, excellent. All right.
Yeah.
So
Well,
how many knives did you have on the table? Can you offhand remember? I'm trying to figure out whether your table was extremely busy. Was it crowded? Was it only 2 or 3 pieces?
It was 7 or 8 pieces. There was not many.
Okay. So when you did your table setup, thinking back on it, what would you change on that, knowing what you know now? So give us a bit of a picture of what your table layout looked like, and then if you would change anything, what would it be and why?
It was my first and only one, to be honest, and it was quite bland. I would have. I have a look whenever I display things now, and I didn't at the time. I used old pallet wood to create a backing for things, and I use Hessian and pallet wood to set this sort of palette tone. And back then, I just had an old blue tablecloth and had things laid out on the blue tablecloth with little info cards on it. And it was very plain, bland. There was no levels. There was no interest in the table. It was. I was more excited about doing my first show than I was about actually doing it right.
But then also, when you do your first show, you don't know nothing about doing it right.
Yeah.
You gain experience from doing, not from wishing.
I'd rather have been there and fucked it up than have not been there and chickened out and,
Excellent. Did you actually sell anything at the show?
I actually sold 2 times.
Freaking brilliant, man!
Yeah.
Right. Meg. Mr. Zwan. Right, so your first knife show was what?
My first big knife show was
Your
your
first
show,
knife show,
actually.
not a big one or a small one. Your first knife show. Even if it was a
well,
local market, your first exhibition, let's put it that way.
okay. Yeah, once a month for the last year and a half, we've been going to a local monthly, what they call a farmer's market. It's only half a day, but it started about 4 or 5 months before I went to my first big show. That was your show, BKS, in 2018. But it gave me a really good tryout for the big knife show, for the BKS. And I must honestly say, I still do the monthly thing. And every now and again, I sell really well there. Way above expectations, but like I said, it was a really good tryout for the BKS, for the knife show. You learn how to speak to customers, what the expectations are, etc., etc., etc. And one thing you brought up just now, how to set up your table. The first show I did, I only had half the table between Stefan Petersen and me. And I had way too many knives on that half table.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. That's a good one, man.
Yeah, we both still had quite a lot of people at the table, but the table was too crowded. Don't make your table too crowded. That was the first thing I learned there. People just can't see the trees within the forest anymore.
I need to sign off.
All right, man.
See you still.
Thank you for joining us, brother.
I'll say again.
I said thank you for joining us. It's always good. I couldn't get a hold of you. I even tried to phone you. Yeah.
I know my daughter's phone died, so she's been using my phone the whole day.
All right. All right. Oh, that's a good enough excuse for me, man. All right, buddy. I'll chat to you, and we're going to do the same thing on Wednesday. Not a 2-hour, 15-minute thing, though. I want to keep it to half an hour, yeah?
I know. I actually came into the workshop to work. That was an hour ago.
Okay, you get some work done. Thank you for joining us.
I'm going to
Good man,
head off
buddy.
too, guys. It's about 1 a.m. here in Tasmania, so I really need to get some
Holy
sleep.
crap. All right, man. Alex, have fun.
Yeah, thanks for
Keep
having me.
well, Alex.
All right, man.
Just-
All right, so I think we're heading on to the ass end of this thing, but I just want to emphasize, Michelle, what you said there was keep your table clean, organized. Keep in mind that in the Western world, people read from left top to right top, from from top to bottom. So if you organize your knives in that fashion, make it knife, 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 second row, knife, knife, knife. People can scan the knives. If you want to spend time doing little displays, by all means, I tell anyone that'll listen, if you've got less than 6 knives, do not put your sheath on the table with it, because the sheath competes with the knife. That's just my 2 cents. Because normally if you have a sheath on the table, the guys do this little X where the blade sits on top of the sheath. You won't get a consistent display. It'll look cool, but every single guy that picks up that knife, the potential of it gouging the sheath because it's freaking razor sharp. Yeah. Then another thing is branding. If you can, if it's your first show, look, just go and enjoy the show. But as you do it, the more you do it, the more you realize that branding is extremely important. What you want to do there is you want to brand at least a piece of your table. I've given this advice fairly often to a lot of guys. Go and don't make a tablecloth, because a lot of these shows will actually give you a tablecloth. So what you need to do is just do a little knife handling area. So if you think a mouse pad, so if you can do a double-sized mouse pad, there we go. But what you want to do is you want to make it soft and squishy. So put that into middle in your table. So do a mouse pad. Fully branded with your stuff in it. You put it center to where the guy is going to be standing. And you have your knives put out around it. And then when a guy approaches and you ask you, can he pick up the knife? Then you say, look, as long as you handle it over the handling area. And then you explain that the chances of a knife slipping is just lessened, or a knife slipping and falling on another knife, because I've actually seen this happen in a knife show where a guy only had 3 knives on his table. He had them all bunched up in the center of the table. Guy came in, he picked up the center knife. It slipped out of his hand because he was so, I don't know, excited about handling the knife that he dropped it, and that blade hit both the other knives. So you only had 3 knives, all 3 took damage. The gentleman that actually handled the knife, he ended up offering to buy all 3 knives. And the maker was fairly upset, but he realized that it wasn't done on purpose. And he told the guy, no, don't worry about it. And he did that. I would have lost my shit completely, but he did it very, very nicely, and the world of respect to that guy. And then I met up with him about 2 months after that show, and the gentleman that dropped the knife, actually, after this guy went and fixed the knife, this guy phoned him and said he insisted on buying those 3 knives at full price, and they weren't cheap.
Nice.
They weren't cheap. So yeah, man, you can build long-term relationships of little mishaps. But so setting up your table in such a way that it can be read, easily viewed, and you don't look at your table from behind the table. Put yourself in the customer's point of view. Always point the handles towards the customer. Larger pieces in the middle, smaller pieces to the side, because larger pieces are normally the more expensive ones. And if the guy looking at the expensive one is standing in the center of your table, that still leaves space alongside that guy for other guys to pop in. And if another guy that pops in, he can spend his time looking at the cheaper stuff right at the end and work his way towards the more expensive stuff. And another thing that I am a big believer in is making sure that your knives are priced. Because a lot of guys that I found, especially in South Africa, they love what they're seeing, but you're busy talking to another customer, and he doesn't want to interrupt. All right, so he doesn't want to ask you. All he wants to know is whether you can afford this thing. And if you could look at it and think, "Fuck that! That's in my price range. I'm going to grab it." You wouldn't have had to make the sale. Yeah. And if a guy really wants the knife and you are a well-known maker, obviously your prices are going to be a bit higher. Even whether he knows you or not, he looks at the price and immediately he knows, you know what, not on this green earth will I ever, can I spend that amount of money on a knife? And then you'll just walk off. Yeah, you're not wasting his time. He's not wasting your time. Another thing, always have contact information on hand. Always have contact information on hand. Now in South Africa, and I found this worldwide, is that there is a thing collecting knife makers' business cards. It's a fucking thing. It's a thing. 3 years ago, I took 2,000 business cards to Blade Show.
Yeah.
Right. It's a 3-day show. A day and a half, I had no business cards left. Not a single phone call. From 2,000 business cards. Yeah, so what I tell you guys is do a little stand or just a little laminated, whatever. It doesn't have to be laminated. Just put it on your table with your contact details. The guy says, hey, do you have a business card? You say, no, I don't, but have you got a cell phone? And everyone at a fucking knife show has a cell phone. Yeah? Tell them, take a photo of this. Take a photo of this. That's one thing you will not lose. And then what you can also do is a QR code, yeah, for the guys digitally struggling. You know, QR code. So it's saying you put a QR. Every smartphone has got a QR code app, or you can download them and you scan my QR code. It gives you everything. Small little bio, my name, my surname, my company name, mobile number, website address, what stuff I do, blah, 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 blah. And that's just on your phone by a single click. Done. You hit save in your phone book. Done.
So they can't lose it. Like the business.
Use those little techniques and little things and engages. I've also seen a lot of guys doing flower arrangements on their tables. And I've seen a lot of knife shows will actually give a prize to the best looking table. So you get fucking guys doing a log. His wife went into a florist, bought a little floristy log, fucking did multiple tiers with flowers, blah, 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 blah. And this guy looks like he's at a fucking the main table on a wedding. I don't know.
It will attract the attention.
No, it will not. It just detracts from the reason that you're there. Unless your aim is to win the best table. Yeah? But then go for fucking flashing neon lights, man. So at least you draw other people's attention. There are much better ways at drawing attention. Yeah? A lot better ways. We're not in the 50s or the 60s anymore. Yeah?
Yes,
You'd an 80s disco feel. Have a frame over with a fucking mirror ball. You'll get a lot more people in there. A lot more people than having a
so in November, I'm going to do that.
Yeah, you're more than welcome, buddy. Just make sure that you're next to me. Yeah?
Yes. Oh, dear. But he's also going to go bake some bread.
Oh, dude, we need to do a cooking show. Yeah, while you cook, I'll just ask really stupid questions. All right, so we're actually on the ass end of this thing. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. We are going to call it. There we go. NFC tags. That's something that is not offered in Africa, buddy. Nick, but yeah, Nick showed that to me. It's a little tap thing. It looks like a business card. It's got an RFC code thingy in it. You just tap it on the back of your phone. All your information is in there. So it's like a one permanent business card. And then Anthony Topham has given us a link to a QR generator. That's exactly the one I'm using. And then Sean is saying, what show? The Brooklyn Knife Show. It's early days, buddy, but it is always the first weekend in December. I am the official organizer, and I will make my call. I don't know. It's probably only in August. I will make my call. But I think the face of knife shows as it stands at the moment have been changed forever. That is just my thing. We might make it smaller. I don't know. So as soon as malls have been opened for trading, then yes. I don't know how long it's going to be until gatherings of more than 100 will be allowed. And as an organizer, I cannot take someone's money if I can't allow more than 100 people into a hall, or into any public space. It's like when I had the Brooklyn Knife Show, with something like 1,000 and something people in the first 3 hours of the show. So, with those type of feet, you just can't do it, man. We can't do it. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, Michelle.
Yes.
Any parting words of wisdom from you? Oh,
no,
crap,
not today.
Not today.
No, just stay out of trouble and keep safe, everybody, and stay home.
If you can't keep out of trouble, take photos.
Exactly, lots of them.
Yeah. All right, brother. Thank you for joining me in this one. Have a good evening. And we'll catch you on the next one, right?
Right, will do.
Cheers, man. Good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me on this little episode. Yeah, it turned out to be a hell of a lot longer than we originally anticipated. Round rule one, yeah, man. Sean, please do, buddy. So we will be working on the knife show, and I'll keep you guys updated. Yeah. Okay. So next time, don't wear a grey shirt because I look really pasty faced, man. And the hair. Yeah, my wife is threatening to cut my hair on air. So I don't know. Maybe we'll do that. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me on this one. Have a good one, and we'll catch you guys on the next one, which I've got no idea. Apparently, it's going to be on Wednesday. Yeah. Keep safe. Get into your shop and make something. Yeah. Have fun. Cheers.